Hey, it's Alex Miller here once again with OnStage Colorado, and also, as usual, Toni Tresca is here with me. Hey, Toni.
Hey there, Alex. Excited to talk musical parody with you.
Yeah. Well, this is our bonus issue. It's a little bit, our bonus podcast. It's a little bit shorter than our usual marathons, like they're over an hour. So we wanted to review Forbidden Broadway, Merrily We Stole a Song, which is running at the Denver Center's Garner Galleria Theatre. And also a little later, we have an interview from UpStart Theatre in Ouray. They have a company called Recent Cutbacks Theater that's doing a show called Hold On to Your Butts, which is a parody of the Jurassic Park movies. And so that was a lot of fun talking to them. And one of the performers that they have on stage is a Foley artist named Kelly Robinson. It was really fun to talk to. Don't often have Foley artists on the show, to talk about the sound effects and things that they do.
Yeah, it sounds like it should be a good conversation, pun intended.
Oh, God. All right. Well, let's talk about Forbidden Broadway. So for those who may not be familiar, the Garner Galleria is the cabaret space there at the Denver Center for the Performing Arts. It's set up, it's got some little tables, a small stage, and then it's got some other seating in the back and, a full bar and wait service. So it's a little definitely different than the other theaters there. And they typically have shows that are kind of on the lighter side. A lot of times they're parodies like this, usually often musical. So this one is it's kind of a sequel to Forbidden Broadway, which passed through a couple of years ago, and which I think we were a little lukewarm on. So I have to be honest, I wasn't expecting much from this version, Forbidden Broadway, Merrily We Stole a Song. But actually, I enjoyed it. I thought it had. I thought it was better in some ways than the last one. Of course, this has it's updated, so it's got some newer shows in it as well as some older ones. So, what was your overall initial take?
Yeah, this is actually my third time seeing a production of Forbidden Broadway. This company has been parodying musicals since 1982.
Wow.
When they launched their first review at the Palace Supper Club in New York City, where the original run of Forbidden Broadway ran for over 2,000 performances.
Wow.
And since that kind of initial day when the show was created by Jared Alessandria, the structure has pretty much stayed the same. It's a 4-person musical review that just roasts the best of Broadway and worst, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I would say it's very different than either of the two previous times I saw it. When I saw it last at the Denver Center in this same theater at the Garner Galleria in 2022, it was a lot more of parodies that they had done before. It was a lot more of us that like the parodies of Cats, and there was stuff about Les Mis and Phantom of the Opera. And so it was a lot of hits from their past. And so, like you said, this version, Merrily We Stole a Song, updates it to include stuff as recent as last season. So they're referencing like Eddie Redmayne's turn in Cabaret, the film version of Wicked, and new musicals like Anne Juliet and The Outsiders.
Right. And I remember you'd heard a couple of people there commenting on some of these shows that might have been almost too new, that they haven't really come through Denver, like Anne Juliet, which is coming very soon, but hasn't been through here yet. And The Outsiders, which I don't know much about. So one thing I have to say about this is that I was looking at the bios of the cast, and I mean, these are legit musical theater professionals, and they really showed that. And it really lends a lot to the show when these people can really sing really well. Like Catherine Penny, she sang the big song from Frozen and was hitting those high notes. And Nicole Vanessa Ortiz was the other female, also a great singer. And then the other two were Miles Davis Tillman and Chris Collins Pisano, and all of them were really, really strong performers and also comedic performers. So I thought they really pulled off the material pretty well.
Agreed. Yeah, I thought that, and they have a really fun chemistry together. I would say this particular iteration of the show doesn't give as much material to Nicole Vanessa Ortiz. She's kind of she's stuck doing a lot more solo numbers. She's very memorable, particularly in her turn as as Audra McDonald, riffing on Gypsy, and as the not so little orphan Annie that she appears as several times throughout the show.
Little orphan Granny was the
That's
joke.
right.
She's been so old that she's not a kid anymore. But she also did Elphaba, a shtick about Elphaba at the end that was pretty good too.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So you were pretty good about writing down some of the numbers that we're doing. Do you want any some of the ones that stuck out to you?
So I'll say, just know this going in. It's a bit of a slow start to get started, because the show opens with this kind of skit in which they riff about how bad theater etiquette has gone, that evolves into this kind of sloppy number, and then that leads into the main theme, like the Forbidden Broadway intro song, in which they explain that they're going to do musical parodies and they will change the words to songs from Broadway.
I wondered why they thought that was necessary. Yeah.
It's very overly didactic in an utterly unnecessary manner, because you're like, yeah, I know. I paid money for this already. You got me here. You don't need to convince me of the format. Yeah. But after it kind of does those intros, it really picks up. I thought it started pretty strong. There's a really funny performance by Miles Davis Tillman of Cabaret, in which they do the cabaret performances throughout the year, how the MC and Sally, kind of their interpretations have gotten more dark and edgy and experimental, just to kind of push the boundaries of theater, that I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah, and they really kind of took the gloves off on some of them. I mean, they were kind of, raking everybody over the coals, like just kind of criticizing The Lion King for basically being Hamlet, and what were some of the other ones that they were...
I thought another good one was their parody of And Juliet, which is a newer musical. Right. And it was critiquing how high the songs are written in contemporary musical theater nowadays, because they're just pop songs that are being modulated up with like auto-tune and everything. And I thought that was a pretty funny bit, although it definitely left a few people around us scratching their heads because they didn't know what And Juliet was. But that'll be coming soon. And Juliet opens in Denver at the Denver Center this upcoming week.
Yeah, and maybe we should go back and see Forbidden Broadway and reevaluate. But yeah, they definitely had some pretty pointed criticisms, disguised with comedy and music about. Yeah, there was definitely a lot about Andrew Lloyd Webber. The parody of Dear Evan Hansen I thought was particularly funny. The way that, I think it was Chris Collins Pisano who was just kind of highlighting the sort of the way that character says every line with this kind of up note or something like that.
Yeah, the kind of overacting that was at play. And then I really liked the note that kind of song ended on, where they were calling him Evan Has-Been, and saying that actor, Ben Platt, has not been in anything since then, which is mostly true, which is why it's so funny.
Yeah, it's kind of hard on some actors in there. And they also had a lot of fun with Stephen Sondheim. So can you touch on those? You're the Sondheim pro around here.
Well, the whole show is riffing on a Sondheim title. Merrily We Stole a Song is riffing on Merrily We Roll Along, which they riff on quite a bit in the second act. They do a whole parody of the current or the most recent Daniel Radcliffe-led revival that I think is very funny. That was really well done. There is a pretty extended riff about Old Friends, which is Sondheim's latest musical that was on Broadway, done by Bernadette Peters. And then there's also the Sondheim melody, Into the Words, which this is a classic one from Forbidden Broadway. I've seen this done multiple times. And this is essentially the three characters from Sondheim musicals interrogating Stephen Sondheim for how quickly he writes his songs, how many words he throws into it, and how un-actor friendly his work is.
Yeah, they definitely had a good time raking Bernadette Peters over the coals, and Catherine Penny was pretty good portraying her and getting her style of, I don't know, little boopsy girl, right? And then also alluding to the fact that, you know, she's in her 70s now and still being cast in these younger roles, which I didn't really know. I didn't even know she was still alive. So it's interesting.
I quite liked what they did. I thought what they did with Back to the Future was very funny. That was in the first act. You and I are both famously on the record as Back to the Future haters, and so the whole gimmick of that segment was they were going to use the time machine to go back in time to when musical theater wasn't
good.
crap.
Yeah,
and so I thought that was funny. I thought that was a pretty good riff.
Yeah, they were waxing nostalgic about the Rodgers and Hammerstein days of musical theater when it was new. It was a brand new form, and you know, I think they hit all this stuff, and it's you know, they're pointing out some obvious things that I think if you're into musical theater, you might kind of gloss over as you just enjoy them and not think too much about it. So it's interesting to see a group of people really digging into it and criticizing it in this way.
Totally, yeah, and it is fun to see. Like, quite liked their parody of some of the newer stuff, like Hamilton. I thought their send up of that Miles Davis did about how Lin-Manuel Miranda is the new king of Broadway,
right.
And his impression of Lin-Manuel Miranda was spot on.
Yeah, it was very good. It was also very short, wasn't it? The Hamilton part.
It was only about like a minute and a half.
Maybe they just didn't have the budget to have all those period costumes. Although they did their I guess their big budget piece was the Lion King, because they had some it was pretty funny costume sort of parodies of the costumes themselves that they were doing.
Yeah, and that particular parody is another one of their, I guess, familiar hits. The Lion. They've been doing that parody of the Lion King for as many years as the Lion King has been on Broadway.
Right. One of the big jokes is that the costumes themselves, especially the headpieces, are like giving everybody like sprained necks and stuff like that because they're so heavy.
Totally. And that's not to say that all of the parodies and jokes work 100%. Like, I thought their riff on Jersey Boys was pretty lazy,
yeah,
and repetitive. There's some of the stuff, like, I didn't quite understand. I've not seen The Outsiders or in any capacity, so that segment went entirely over my head. And then there was a pretty confusing Hillary Clinton bit that happened at the Tony Awards.
Yeah,
that they say that I should Google it, but I did, but I was still pretty confused by that segment.
Yeah,
it's because she's the producer of Suffs, and she spoke at the Tonys or something, but I wasn't quite sure. That one didn't work for me.
That was a bit of a stretch. So I guess I would ask, so it was interesting. So you and I were there, and my son Andy, and I would say we have a pretty good spectrum of, like, he doesn't know that many of these shows. I know a fair amount of them, and you know lots of them. So the question is, and he was kind of a little underwhelmed by the show just because he couldn't get a lot of the jokes. So do you think it's important that anybody going to the show should probably have a decent understand or knowledge of musical theater to really enjoy it?
I would say for this particular iteration, because there are so many references to shows that were either recently on Broadway or still are on Broadway, I would say that, yeah, you do kind of, to enjoy this particular iteration of the show, have to be aware of what's going on in New York at the moment, which I would say is not necessarily true of every single Forbidden Broadway tour. When it came through in 2022, in my review that I wrote for Boulder Weekly at the time, I actually critiqued it for sticking to big commercial shows for the vast majority of it. However, upon seeing this current iteration of the tour, I almost wonder if they swung a little bit too far in the other direction and don't have enough, like, nods to shows like Phantom and things like that a more broad audience who is not like the musical theater heads could connect to.
Right. Yeah, maybe they could have just thrown in some more of the jukebox musicals, or I mean, they had Back to the Future. I was trying to think, they could have done something on like Mean Girls, or some of those, movie adaptations. They probably more of those they might have had some fun with. But I mean, I would say overall, yeah, you probably should have have seen a decent number of musicals, whether on stage or on the film versions or something like that, to get a lot of the jokes. And but overall, the vibe is pretty fun. Like you said, it started out a little slow, but I thought the audience was super into it. They had almost a full house there on opening night when we were there on the 29th. And yeah, it was a decent show. Really a strong cast, and also really great. I got to call out to the piano player. They just have a straight piano. No other keyboards, just a piano. Jack Lipson did a great job of just kind of sort of vaudevilling his way through the whole set.
Yeah, and the set is very simple. It's just that piano, the kind of stage lights, and then there's a projection screen that's off to the side that occasionally is used for like visual gags,
Right.
And things like that. But I do want to quickly note something about the tech itself. There were quite a few sound and lighting issues on when we were in attendance.
Yeah.
Quite a few moments that actors their microphones would either cut out, or there were big loud pops.
Yeah.
And then a lot of scenes where it felt like the spotlight didn't quite turn on or hit the actor, right? And so like they would just be standing in the dark. And this is a reoccurring issue that has been happening as of late at Denver Center Productions, and I'm just not sure why.
Yeah, and I know we talked about it at the Buell and also some of the theater company productions, but yeah, that aside, hopefully they'll iron that out. It's a much smaller venue to get that stuff right. It was opening night. Certainly the cast itself this is not new to them. They look like they've been doing the show. They've done it many times, so you're not seeing like first timers out there. But yeah, generally speaking, they can clean that up. It's a fun night out. Maybe brush up on your Broadway musicals before you go. But Forbidden Broadway, Merrily We Stole a Song, runs through June 29th, and they perform 6 or 7 times a week. So you've got plenty of opportunity to see this show.
Absolutely. And it runs about an hour 40, hour 45. And even if you don't get every single musical parody, the cast energy, I think, is enough to push you through some of those numbers that you're like, maybe I don't understand exactly what they're referencing, but they're still committed to it 110%.
Yeah. Yeah, also one of those things, it's interesting to go there on Thursday night on the 29th. That was the only thing going on. I'd never seen I was at the best parking spot in the Death Spiral parking garage. So yeah, until other things start up, you've got the Garner Galleria has got the only thing going.
That's right.
All right, well, hang around. We'll be right back with my interview with Kate Kissingford and a couple of the folks from the recent Cutbacks Theatre who are doing this Jurassic Park spoof out there in Ouray called Hold On to Your Butts, June 6th through 8th. And I think they're going to be doing another one here in the metro area as well. So stick around. I'll be right back with that. OnStage Colorado is brought to you by the Aurora Fox, whose production of Little Miss Sunshine runs June 6th through 29th. It's a heartwarming and hilarious musical adaptation of the beloved Academy Award-winning film. Little Miss Sunshine celebrates the power of love, determination, and the joy of following your dreams, no matter the obstacles. Tickets at aurorafoxartcenter.org. Also supporting OnStage Colorado is the Colorado Shakespeare Festival, presenting The Tempest June 7th through August 10th and Richard II July 5th through August 10th. Shows take place in the Row Green Theater on the campus of the University of Colorado Boulder. Tickets at cupresents.org. OnStage Colorado is also sponsored by the Denver Fringe Festival, taking place June 4th through 8th at multiple venues in the Denver area. From clowns and kid shows to hard-hitting dramas and out-there solo shows, Denver Fringe is the place to see all kinds of wildly creative performances from local and national artists. Tickets at denverfringe.org. We're also supported by the Boulder Ensemble Theater Company, whose new season starts in August and includes Cry It Out, Elizabeth I in Her Own Words, The Thin Place, Every Brilliant Thing, Brooklyn Laundry, and Mary Jane, as well as Mad Librarians for the kids. Get tickets at betc.org.
Fair word.
So, well, here you're. Thanks for being on the OnStage Colorado podcast. We're talking to sort of a group of folks here. So, first is Kate Kissingford from the UpStart Theatre in Ouray, and then we have a couple of folks from the recent Cutbacks Theater, Kelly Robinson, who's the Foley artist, and Kristen McCarthy Parker. Are you one of the performers?
I'm going to be performing for the first time, yeah. But usually I'm the director and producer.
Okay, great. So recent Cutbacks Theater is a kind of says here, creative ensemble founded in 2014 and known for you like to parody movies and things like that. And so you have this show called Hold On to Your Butts, which is a two-person parody, or I shouldn't say two actors and a Foley artist parody of Jurassic Park. So and Kate, you said I think you said you saw it in Edinburgh at the Fringe Festival.
Yeah, last summer, my child Nate and I went, and what was really cool was we had no idea. So Matt Zambrano, who everybody on this, is listening to this podcast will probably know. I found out he was in a show. I had no idea. I was there. I found him. We had tea. He told me about his show, and I went that afternoon to see Hold On to Your Butts, and it was hilarious. And I think the thing that really later on made me want to bring it is that, at UpStart, we're an actors theater. We don't have, in Ouray, Colorado, a town of 900 people, we don't have a lot of technical theater professionals here. So we really have to make sure that our shows are, simple staging, actor-based, low tech. And boy, does this show fit that bill in the most amazing way. And it just really, for me, highlights storytelling for what it is. That bells and whistles are amazing and important for environmental theater, but this is like just really, three people on stage who are so talented and so well trained, telling story. And the thing that really impressed me at Edinburgh was it was sold out, and the vibe in the room, and it was a big room, was just pure joy. Everyone was just so happy to be there. And that's what we're excited to bring to Ouray.
All right. Well, that makes sense. So we've been joined by Kyle Schaefer, who I believe is the other on-stage talent. Is that correct? Hi, Kyle. Nope, can't hear you. Alas. Okay. Well, we work out Kyle's audio issues. So let me just ask. So this is a kind of there's been a lot of these shows. I guess kind of almost the originator was sort of like the complete works of William Shakespeare, like back in the 90s. And there's been a lot of these, that was a spoof on Shakespeare with a couple of people kind of doing the whole thing. And then there's been other iterations where, like you're doing. But I have to say, this is the first one I've heard where there's a Foley artist as part of the thing, which sounds like a fantastic idea. So Kelly, can I ask you what, in terms of the sound effects for this spoof of Jurassic Park, how did you approach this? What are you all doing?
Well, one of the things I think that's so iconic about the film itself is the soundtrack and the sound effects that are kind of helped make this movie beloved and famous. So I play a lot of dinosaurs, which is very fun. And it's very fun to explore how to make those sounds with my mouth and body and a microphone. And then on top of that, we have some brilliant pre-recorded kind of like riffs and takes on the original score. So you get the classic of John Williams' brilliance, and then also with a lot of silly beeps and boops and slurps from me.
Uh-huh. Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you give us like a little bit of a taste of your Velociraptor or something like that?
Oh, Velociraptor. Yeah. Velociraptor is a more quiet one, but there is like a kind of like a at the end when the Velociraptor really like gets into it. I'm gonna prepare your ears here.
Okay.
Wait, I think it's just a. Is that right? Did I do it?
Sounds about right.
That's the Velociraptor. So there's also the more quiet, like the.
Right.
Wonder.
And then there's that
Yeah.
one that attacks, Newman. That does
Oh.
this. Does that one have a sound?
That one does. It's me ha ha, me ha ha.
Okay.
And we also utilize like an egg shaker for the
Okay.
for the moment.
For the
I'm not
rattle.
giving things away.
Yeah.
I want people to come see it.
Oh, they'll still come see it. Kyle, do we have you back yet? Or are you?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes. We
Okay,
can.
I pushed the button, as they say. Yes.
Okay. All right. So Kyle and Kristen, you two are on stage. How do you? I'm assuming you divvy up the parts as expected. So Kristen, you're Laura Dern, and Kyle, you're oh my God, what's the actor's name that played the other guy?
It is not as expected at all. Both
Okay.
actors. This is a 2-actor show with a Foley artist, and both actors play all the characters. I think there's only a couple that are siloed. Like I think only my track does the T-Rex, and only Kyle's track does like Nedry. But it's a lot of like character doubling, which makes the show really, really flexible, and also I think a lot more fun for the audience because you get to watch different people play different parts and kind of see how impressions like read a little differently across different people.
Okay. And then, how did the idea for this come about? Why did you pick Jurassic Park as the hill to die on the show?
Well, Jurassic Park. So myself and Kyle and our co-founder Nick Abiel of Recent Cutbacks. Nick was a huge Jurassic Park fan, and like the idea came about because one night a very long time ago, we were out with a friend, and that friend and Nick were just like quoting the movie at each other for a very long time, and then it was like, oh, this could make a really funny 2-person show, and then we sort of saw that idea through. So it comes from this show, and all of our others comes from a place of like very sincere love of the original. And I think, Kate said it perfectly earlier. We're like, we have an ethos of joy. So like, we're always punching up. We're never punching down. We're always making more fun of ourselves than anybody else. It's a very like accessible and warm experience to see our shows. And then within that, we like to use it as a lens to explore a lot of really cool physical theater techniques and comedy techniques like mime, Foley, as Kelly was talking about, puppetry, and a lot of others.
Great. Kyle, what are some of your favorite parts of the show or characters to play?
I think Goldblum is probably where I'd go first. There's some obvious ones like that, and the dinosaurs, of course. I do like some of the kind of more not bit parts, but like the lawyer,
Right.
Little ways to be like, this is not a super important part of this very short show, so we're just going to kind of quickly be like, it's this. So the bathroom scene is super fun. Yeah.
The one where the T-Rex chomps the guy.
Things that aren't like
Right.
when you're like, what's a scene that you remember from Jurassic Park? It's not necessarily like the first one that pops into your mind, but then these little moments, I think when you're watching it, and then certainly when you're performing it, where you're like, that was pretty good. I did that. That kind of like makes it this like amazing film instead of just kind of like, oh, that was cool when I saw it. But I think that's why it's had such staying power,
Spielberg, of course, you get the chomp lawyer. The lawyer gets it first. It's pretty funny. So that's great. Well, Kelly, what are some of the things that? So you're doing sounds with your mouth. You have some recordings, and what about practical stuff? I remember you mentioned rattle. What are some of the other things you've got with you at your Foley table there?
Yeah, I'm like, what are my favorites? I think I really like the sequence with the Nedry's dinosaur, the Dilophosaurus, that's what it is really fun. There's a little crank that I get to use and the egg shaker. Ones that the sequences I enjoy are the ones where I like need multiple things like all at once. There's a really fun sequence where we make a sandwich that involves simply a plastic bag and some utensils, and the conversation between actor that's miming this on stage and me at the table kind of messing around with all my bits and bobs is is really fun to achieve.
And then how did you get into Foley? Were you just kind of like, hey, you want to do some Foley, or did you actually kind of train for it or learn some of these things?
To be honest, I was introduced by Foley many years ago, probably about 10 years ago when Jurassic Park, this Hold On to Your Butts parody first came to be. And I saw it at the People's Improv Theater in New York. And I was like, I want to do that. And then cut to 10 years later, I became involved and got to know these humans. And I knew that they were going, and I was like, I'm going to put my hat in the ring. Put me in, coach. I'm ready.
Wow.
I've always kind of been like a physical mover and a vocal performer. And so I was like, I think this might be right up my alley. And
that's great.
And it turns out it's a good fit. It's a lot of fun.
Got to go to the big leagues, like that kid from Indonesia got to be the journey singer or whatever.
Exactly like that.
Exactly like that. So you guys have been performing at fringe festivals. I mean, how often are you performing the show? Are you taking it all over the world or this country or what?
Yeah, we had as Kelly mentioned, we did our first performance in New York in 2014 and ran it off and on, ever since then in New York. Mostly at the People's Improv Theatre, a couple of other places, and it was a big hit. We had always wanted to go to Edinburgh Festival Fringe, and 2024 just turned out to be the right year. And so we took it over there. It's kind of like a fringe ready show, as Kate was saying. It kind of all fits into a little box. And so we took it over, and it was a really big hit there as well. And then we did a production of it in London, and then it toured throughout the UK this spring. And we're hopeful that, it'll continue to have a life in the UK, in addition to us bringing it back to Edinburgh this summer. So yeah, we've taken it to Chicago, to Second City, and some other places in the US as well. But this will be our first time in Colorado.
Great. Kyle, why do you think audiences respond so much to Jurassic Park? I mean, it's such a well-known film. And it's not only well-known, but it's on TV all the time. It's like one of those things you can always stop on it as you're changing channels and there's a scene from Jurassic Park.
I just think it's awesome. And it really holds up. It's up there 25 years, 30 years ago or something like that. But the special effects were so good. Right. It still looks great. I mean, the story is amazing. There's so much, it's never like too ridiculous, but it's never too serious. The story, the acting, the soundtrack is just aces. It's pretty flawless and just like, very cool, but also just very entertaining. Like it's well done, but like there's so much fun to be had. And I'm still scared of the dinosaurs, and I know that movie inside and out, and I'm still kind of like, oh no, are they going to get away? I think it's
I always kind of hope the Australian guy is going to escape the velociraptors at the end, but he never does.
Could happen. It could happen.
But it's the Frankenstein story, right? It's man creates monster destroys man, and I think that there's something that resonates with people about
and woman inherits the earth. Exactly.
There you go. Of course, Mary Shelley created the kind of the genre from the very start. So, so you guys are performing this. You're going to be at the in Ouray at UpStart Theatre on June 6th through 8th. So are you doing 3 shows?
We're doing 4 actually.
Okay.
And it's at the Wright Opera House, which UpStart nearly always plays at the Wright Opera House.
Beautiful. And
it'll be 1 performance on the Friday, 2 on the Saturday, 1 on the Sunday.
Okay. Yeah. And then you're going to be coming to Denver. You're going to perform at Denver's Clock Tower Cabaret on June 9th. And is that just one show?
Yes, just one show. And Matt Zambrano will be performing in that one.
Oh, really? So Matt Zambrano, very known around here in Denver, especially for the Mad Librarians and the King Penny show. Definitely well known here around Denver. As well, is there anything else that you can tell me about Hold On to Your Butts that people want to know. I noticed that it's a very stripped down show, but you did use a traffic cone for a tail for the dinosaurs, which I thought was very inventive. Do you bring your own cone, or do you pick one up when you're in town?
That we bring our own cone. That cone's been with us a long time.
Okay. And then how do you attach it? Is it just like duct tape or something, or what?
Essentially, it's a belt, but it functions similarly to like if you like an airline seat belt. So it's got like a clasp, so
Right.
It's very easy to clasp and tighten, and you're on the road.
Okay. All right. And do you have one cone that you share, or do you each have your own?
Yep, just one that we
just
share.
One cone. Okay. All right. Well, Kate Kissingford from UpStart Theatre there in Ouray, thanks so much for bringing these folks together. Kelly Robinson, the Foley artist for Hold On to Your Butts, Krista McCarthy-Parker, and Kyle Schaefer will be performing this show. It sounds like a great time. We'll try and get to the one here in Denver and break legs and break traffic cones as well.
Thanks so
you,
much,
Alex.
Thank
Alex.
you.
All right.